Running a human stash house can be quite profitable, at least according to recent court filings by the Border Patrol.
Human traffickers earn thousands of dollars for hiding undocumented immigrants from authorities. Eyewitness News border reporter Oscar Margain is following the case of an Edinburg couple who were busted last week.
That's the home that Border Patrol agents raided a week ago, and information has surfaced that is helping us better understand what was going on behind closed doors. A confession by an undocumented immigrant seeking to get past a Border Patrol checkpoint in Falfurrias, Texas, is what gave investigators the lead they needed to crack down on this human stash house. 29 undocumented immigrants from Mexico, Central America, and China were arrested. Among them, 3 Mexicans who are accused of running the operation: Jesus Rodriguez Rivas, his wife Berta Salazar Aleman, and the nephew Jonathan Ramirez Aleman. Documents filed in federal court reveal how agents began surveilling the Edinburg home days prior to the raid. According to the criminal complaint, agents followed Rodriguez and his wife to a bank and then to a supermarket where they allegedly purchased large quantities of single items, and that's when agents approached them both for questioning. The report describes how immigrants would cross the Rio Grande after paying a smuggler between $2,000 to $10,000. Rodriguez would load up a group at the border and drive them to his home on Hidalgo Street in Edinburg. Immigrants would be held there for a few days before they're moved out to continue being smuggled north. They were fed twice a day and had their cell phones confiscated while being ordered to stay put and keep quiet. Rodriguez was allegedly paid $150 per person. That's almost $4,000 for this group alone. We caught up to relatives who are currently taking care of the children that were left behind at the home when their parents were taken away. They say they were unaware the home was being used as a human stash house and haven't been able to talk to any of the 3 suspects. A hearing for Rodriguez and his nephew took place Monday afternoon, where a judge denied bond and found enough probable cause to indict the trio. They are expected to be back in court in about 3 weeks. In McAllen on the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain reporting.